And this was on a long train of abuses that finally it got to a point where it had to be declared. That meant bringing together delegates from each of the colonies, and they met together, and that's where we get the Declaration finally signed on July 2nd. In fact, in the Declaration, the king, right after it talks about the laws of nature, nature's God, and the fact that governments are set up to defend the rights and liberties that God gives us, 2/3 of the Declaration of Independence is a statement of over 30 times in which the king had lost his right to rule by becoming a tyrant. And it actually used the word despotism. It says, but when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such a government and to provide new guards. And then he goes on to give 30 different reasons why he has broken his covenant. And they're saying this before the nations of the world and before a just God. In fact, they appeal to the supreme God of the world, judge of the world, for the rectitude of their intentions. All of this is done to hold to a covenant. They are not going to rebel against law. They are going to hold the king to the law. And if he has broken it to the extent of becoming a tyrant and killing and taking away people's rights, he has lost his right to rule. So they, as lesser magistrates, this is the Christian view of government, allows them to set up someone who is not a tyrant to obey the laws of God and to protect the rights of individuals. And that is the Christian view of how not a revolution, but how a transfer of power must take place if you have a tyrant. Much different than the French Revolution, much different than the Russian Revolution, where thugs come to town to rape and kill and murder and take over people through terror. This is much different. This is simply defending the rights that were given to you by God and starting from that premise.
And that's a powerful statement when you consider the king is now telling the colonist that you are a what? Traitor. You've committed treason, and thus I can hang you. Who has control of life there? Who's controlling the covenant? Well, the king is claiming that he has a right over their lives. And they're saying, no, we're free men. You've breached the covenant. I mean, you read some of these usurpations. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies. He's imposed taxes on us without our consent. Abolishing the free system of English laws. They're quoting the long-standing English laws that they've lived by. Things like Lex Rex, where it even establishes the nature that a king can't be a violent, you can't use a violent act to overthrow the governed. And then the king, even if he has overthrown another country, he cannot stay there and have a just title unless the consent of the governed have agreed. In other words, he's protected them or relieved them from tyranny. And I also like these other ones. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death. He has forbidden our governors to pass laws. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of our public records to make it difficult for them to even be engaged. The king basically had breached the covenant in almost every way imaginable, and they've listed all these out as you have said, Marshall. So when they're saying we're declaring our independence, they are simply raising that banner that they are freemen once. They are standing on Luke 4, which says Jesus came to set the captives free. So they are freemen first in Christ. And those are the standards that we need to kind of get into our belly these days and really get excited about, because that is how this nation is built. And that interposition from the lower magistrates up, which means a father in his home saying, we are free men first. And then 20 fathers getting together and say, we are free men, and covenanting together to get things done. That is the format. Not a single czar or a single dictator or a single king who just decides that he is above the law. Hence, we have Lex Rex, which is the law is above the king.